with Matt McLoughlin with Boston Property Development for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. He's been coming and speaking, and has recently got to meet his brother Matt, who takes care of the hard money side of business now. I'm going to let them tell you their own story, but they're here to talk about funding. So everybody give it up for Matt and Mr.
Well, you go to mine, and then in the middle of it, we're going to switch to Matt's. I can rearrange one slide if you don't mind.
Okay.
One slide for me. You can drag this one behind that one. That'd be great. 5, 5, 6, and 6, 5. There you go. That's an example right there. That's okay. Just one now and then. Doesn't matter. We can still hold it.
Faster you get back to that.
No, it doesn't work.
This is a friend of mine. He does my cleanouts. He does all the cleanouts in my house. So I'll get back to him probably by Monday. Yeah.
There's lots of paper you can throw your way.
Hey everyone.
That's the
How are you?
Good.
Thank you for the nice introduction, Bernadette. I've been coming here speaking annually for probably 6 or 7, 8 years, like you said. Prior to that, I was sitting in your chairs, and primarily because I couldn't stand working for anyone. I suspect there are some of you in this audience that also aren't enamored with corporate America or having a boss or you don't think they're competent. I was all of the above. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I just started looking at different real estate in greater Boston area. I settled into the South Boston area as the target market for me, so that there's a lot of upside, close to the ocean, close to the city. That was in 2001, pre-September, pre-9/11. Found my first 3 family, executed on it, and have been doing it ever since then. If you want to move forward a slide. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about myself. I think the primary goal here is really to get Matt to give you some information on how to best present yourselves to, in his case, a lender, but that also goes for just underwriting criteria that you want to meet on any deal that you would look at. So Matt's going to get into some detail on that. I'm going to give you a little bit of my background, touch on a couple of things. And then Matt's going to speak, and then at the end I'm going to come and speak and talk to you about, I put about my first 15 deals on a slide, and I'm going to go into maybe how I found them, how I financed them, some of the challenges I had then, and try to relate it to maybe some of the challenges people are having now. If that sounds okay.
Are you able to download slides after? Those slides
He wants to know if you get this.
I'm happy. You can. This presentation doesn't have anything confidential in it.
Okay.
I took out a couple of address names, so Bernadette can send this to you. It's fine with me. Does that answer? Okay. So I want to thank kids from Quincy, Mass. Matt's the the youngest of 10, and the 7th of 10. Like I said, I worked in corporate America. I started at GE Capital, went into investment banking, did mergers and acquisitions, was a dot-com millionaire, couldn't go public, wasn't a dot-com millionaire anymore. Moved from New York City back to Boston, worked for a boutique investment bank about 1.5 years as an energy services company. And then while I was there, and this was a good comment, you said, 5, 6 months, how long does it take to get paid? And where's Chris? Chris, that was a great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Was a lot of good information there, so I mean, excellent.
Thank you.
I probably learned some stuff from Chris too, so that was good. One of the things that you had said was, don't quit your job until you've made that money, right? So you want to be able to have replaced your income with, you're not going to probably get recurring cash flow from a rental property, although you could, but you might make $50,000 on one deal, $50,000 on the other, build your confidence. You've done 3 deals now, waking up at 5 in the morning and going to bed at 10 at night, because that is what it takes when you get started. That was absolute truth. And then you have the confidence to say, Mr. Boss, yep, that assignment, here you go, you throw it out, you burn a fire, you have a party. It's a good time. You have to get there and have the confidence, you have money in the bank, and the next deal lined up before you give them the friendly American signal. So, where was I now? So I got into it. I've done it for quite a while. I guess we can go to the next slide. Corporate America is terrible. I think we can all agree. This is our family of companies that we've grown now over, 13 years, 14 years now. Matt's been with us for all but maybe 2 of those years when he worked for a developer on the front end of leasing up larger residential complexes, which now we're doing, and that experience is becoming very handy. Development side is just more R&D, finding the deals, building the broker relationships. There's a million different ways to find them. Short sales, auctions, brokers, police officers, garbage men, janitor, whatever. Just finding the deals, talking to people, letting them know what you're looking for so they can bring it to you, and then giving them some incentive, some referral fee or marketing fee, whatever you want to call it, which, by the way, is totally fine. None of us are big enough to have our own marketing department, so you got to use your mom and pop connections, your friendly connections to get those referrals. And don't feel bad about that, and don't feel bad about giving someone money for it. You know, a company has to pay millions of dollars in the marketing department. Your marketing department is, hey, John, thanks for the referral. Here's $500. Here's $1,000. Don't feel dirty about it. Don't feel bad about it. That's business. You know, that's your marketing department. So that's the development side. Capital side is really what do we need to do to find money? What do we need to do to raise money? Right. So there's a lot of discipline in that particular bracket. Okay. You need to know how to underwrite. You need to get familiar with Excel. You need to know what it is that you need to look at to figure out if something's going to be profitable, okay? And we talked a little bit, some folks came out to 10 Marymount, the 23-unit development. We talked a little bit about this before Bernadette got there the other night. You know, what does it cost? What will it be worth when you're done doing what you're doing to it? Right? Those are the two big things. You know what it costs because you know you're going to buy it for. And the comment that you had made, $380,000 to $420,000 with what that property had comped out at, that's an important thing to know. The next thing to know is what is it right now? How much does it cost to get it to those comps? Right, and that's the one that's the hardest thing for most people in this room, unless you're a general contractor. But there might be a few in here. That's the hardest number to get your arms around as a corporate stiff like I was trying to get into the side of the business. And these guys want to rake you over the pole every step of the way. There's no free rides. Okay, maybe you're lucky enough to have a relative that's in it. That's the closest you can get to a free ride. And then even then, don't be so sure you have a relative can make money too. But figuring out what it costs to do all this stuff. One is identifying what needs to be done, which is sometimes behind the walls. And then it's quantifying it, right? So you really need to find a partner like Chris has, or like he had an architectural background, but find a partner that has an understanding and can walk into a property and say, you want to take that wall line, you want to swap out that vanity, you want to do that kitchen over, you want to go hardwood floors instead of carpet, you need to swap out the windows, you need a new roof. You need someone that can give you realistic numbers on what that costs. Okay, so make sure if you're going to try and be serious, but that you have someone that you can call that can give a sound eye to that. Lenders can do that. Commercial lenders can do that because they know real estate, they know construction. They didn't want to talk to me for 5 years. You know, it was after my 15th or 20th deal that I actually had to go to a relationship with them. So in lieu of them not probably giving you the time of day, private lenders are not a bad option because they have to know these things if they have a construction component to their private lending practice. Okay, if your deal doesn't work at 12% interest, it probably doesn't work that good at 6% interest either. So someone's eye on it is better than no one's eye on it. Just throwing that out there. The contracting business, we've got about $10 million in capital we've lent out, and we as a company have raised another $20 million in capital from investors that are investing in our deals. We have one big whale down in New York that's probably got about 15 of that, and we have $5 million from friends, families, mom and pops. VB Contractors, we're in-house, we're vertically integrated, so we have VB Contractors as our contracting firm. It's on a run rate for $15 million in revenue this year. That is almost exclusively 90% of deals that we're seeding ourselves through development. And those are larger deals, and without getting, what Chris is doing is very difficult. I know because I've done it. I've managed 5 to 10 deals at the same time, gut rehabs, like each one of them a $200,000 project. I give you a lot of credit, but it's one of those things you have to do and successfully do to get to the next level. Whether it's luck, discipline, timing, all the above, you got to put your time in. What I'm trying to do now, and I think with some success, is instead of doing 20 deals at once, each at an average size of $300,000 to $400,000 a deal, I'm doing 6 deals at once, but each with an average size of $6 to $10 million a deal. All right, because it just gets rid of a lot of the redundancy in the process. Because an acquisition is an acquisition, a sale is a sale, and if you're doing construction, whether it be 2 months or 6 months, you're probably running every trade through it. Right, you're going to run your demo guys, your plumbers, electricians, HVAC guys, sheetrockers, plasterers, painters, flooring guys. You're going to run them through on every one. So if you can get to the point where you can get the funding because you've earned the right to that funding because you've earned your chops by doing 30 deals in 1 year. Like an investor's going to say, this guy knows what he's doing. Here, you had success with that. Now have $1 million. Now have $2 million, right? And those are the kind of checks you need to buy a $6 million property. You know, so that's a path, and I don't think we're all necessarily focused on that, but it's just worth noting. I was impressed by the number of deals we manage. The management company is just a company that manages all of our properties. I went the painful route and established it myself. There's also an argument to be made for outsourcing that to a reputable firm. It's only 5% or 8% of your gross revenue, and if they're managing your property right, they can raise the rents more than enough to compensate for that. And the rent checks that they make sure you don't lose by in a disciplined way following up on the rents, you probably end up making more than you think you're saving by not using them. That's just something that I believe from having gone through it all. Next one. This quick slide here. This is just the kind of real estate cycle that as I see it. We're here really to talk about the financing and the debt and equity and how to get your money for your first deal, second deal, third deal. So we're just going to focus on that circle right there in the whole cycle, and then we can come to the next one here. So this is one I wanted to skip and come back to later. And we see, no, this is it. This is right. All right, so I'm going to hand this off to Matt in 1 second, but after Matt speaks, I'll walk you through kind of the progression that I've had and where I had challenges getting financing through 2001 all the way to 2010. We had a market cycle in there as well. So I'll share some of my experiences, and then I'm actually going to ask you guys to tell me what some of your current experiences are so we can share that information with the group. But the obvious one is commercial bank debt, right? Fortunately now I can call banks and I can send out my write-up and I get 5 banks giving me term sheets. That's a luxury, and unless you've done 5 or 10 deals, it's a luxury you probably don't have just yet. Private lending is what I mentioned before. These are the guys that will take a chance on you, and they're going to charge you for that. That's a risk-adjusted return for the private lender. The banks aren't going to look at you. Maybe your score is not right, or maybe you don't have the experience. So what do? If you find a really good deal, you don't let it slip away. You go to someone that might lend money to you, so you don't lose it because you don't have cash. They might not lend money to you either, by the way. I got shot down by many private lenders. It's not a sure thing. And if they don't lend money to you, the bell might go off and say, this isn't a good deal, right? So go up to a couple of private lenders, see what they have for feedback, learn from their experience. Don't just sacrifice the deal saying I'm not going to pay 13-3 or 12-2 or whatever the rates are. Someone will go 18-4 if they get it from me, you know. So the private lender, equity investors. Chris had mentioned he bought a few deals by himself. That's pretty awesome. I wasn't able to do that for many, many years, and I still will finance my deals. But you know, if you have $500,000 in the bank, then that's a great start, right? That's fantastic. You cut down on your soft costs. You know, your soft costs can be a material amount of your deals. And one thing when you're doing your underwriting, everyone looks at what the construction costs are. And sometimes when I started, I didn't look at what the soft costs were, but they end up being 20% of your overall deal costs. You know. So don't miss your soft costs when you're underwriting. But you know, you got to find your equity. Crowdfunding is something Bernadette has been talking to me about. I'm way behind on that. Maybe that's an alternative for you. We'll get maybe that a little bit more later. And then trade debt is just, if you're going to buy your first property and your credit is decent, open up a trade account at Home Depot, Ferguson's, a hardwood flooring distributor, you know, lumber liquidators. Anyone that will give you a trade account, open it up. 5 or 10,000, multiply times 5. Open them all on the same day so your credit's not getting hit and your score's not going down, right? So just seriously, go up one day, fill out 5 applications, create $50,000 of liquidity for yourself. If you know you're going to get out of the deal, it's worth getting at what, 8% or 10%, even if it's 13%. You sometimes need that extra $50,000 to get to the end of your project because you didn't talk to the construction guy I was talking about, or you did, and he still gave you a number that was late because there was stuff behind the wall that you didn't anticipate. Okay, so that's just some food for thought. We'll come back a little bit later, and Matt is going to talk to you about how to properly prepare a presentation for a lender. Go ahead, I'll take a question.
Why'd you say open them all the same day?
Because the credit score goes down with the more time someone does an inquiry against your credit.
Right.
So you might lose 20 points in your credit report, or 40, if you have 5 inquiries over a period of time. By doing them all on the same day, your score would not have been impacted.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Would you recommend doing it in your personal name or in the name of your business LLC?
When I started, I done that.
No, as far as getting vendor credit.
Oh, vendor credit will have to be in your personal name. You know, if you're trying to do it in an LLC, you would have to have 2 years of balance sheet, income statement, tax returns, or you're not going to get it. I did all mine in my personal name when I first started. Yeah. I mean, if you have a company that's been around for a few years and they'll give you credit for your balance sheet and income statement over the periods of years, try it, but they'll still make you sign personally for those anyway, even now. Very rarely I can get them.
So on the first deals, when you went inside and determine what the cost would be?
Yep. I only missed it by 160,000. I had an $85,000 budget.
Right.
It cost 245,000.
Like determining.
My dad gave me his credit cards. I had my vendor accounts to fall back on. I had a 2 or 3K loan program, and I barely squeaked it out.
How'd you learn?
Hard knocks. I hit every speed bump. I hit every crack in the sidewalk. It reminds me of watching my kids going around on their scooters right now when they hit the brick in the sidewalk in the south end, they fall over. That was me. Yeah, everyone.
Even as a wholesaler, like, you can't just guess how much it's gonna cost, you know?
Especially as a wholesaler, you can't just guess because nobody's gonna buy your deal.
Because
If you don't have,
doing Rich Dad says,
Yes. Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a good book. I read it.
right,
Promoted it.
the
Highlighted
classes, they're telling me if it seems like it needs, just cosmetics, then it's gonna cost $20,000. So I just put
How many
that.
square feet is that house?
Exactly, no, it just says that.
Yeah, $20,000 could be the painting budget for a 6,000 square foot house. I mean, there needs to be some, you know, you have to have some, so cosmetics, $20,000, maybe it's a $2,000 house, maybe they're painting the walls. You can use $2 a square foot, maybe for your painting budget, that'd be 4,000 of the 20. If we do know the floors, use $150 a square foot for the floors, so there's $3,000. I could go through all that stuff, but there are some one-pagers that will give you, here's what it's probably gonna cost you to do a window, here's what it's cost you to do a roof based upon the square footage of the, you know, the roof size, do it in squares. There are resources like that out there, but having the trained eye to know whether or not those things need to be done takes time. You know, so you need to have the experience to know what needs to be done because you can tell the wear and tear, like windows. Like when you go up to a house right now, I didn't know to look at the windows. I couldn't tell from looking at them whether they need to be replaced. Now I can look at a window and know it's old, needs to be replaced, siding, roof, you know, all that stuff. But once you can understand what needs to be done, there are resources that can say, you know, 12 lineal feet of kitchen cabinets should cost you X. You know, hardwood flooring can cost you Y. And you can find those metrics out there.
So starting as a wholesaler, what resources should I rely on?
Starting as a wholesaler, most of them just lie anyway, so you don't have to worry too much.
Exactly.
No, they don't have well, you need to train your eyes to know what needs to be done. So finding the deal is the most important thing. So finding the deal is the most important thing, okay? And then figuring out what things cost after is what we're talking about right now. You know, you can use metrics like if it's a really crappy shape, right, it's a single family home, you can, as a wholesaler, what you'd say is it costs $50 a square foot to gut rehab it. As an experienced developer, I'll tell you that that might happen if the labor costs you $2 an hour or something. Maybe you're in the Midwest. I don't know what the cost of it. But it's you use a metric like a per square foot multiplier, right? I know that a gut rehab in South Boston, they just did a 3-family, cost me about $160 a square foot. But I know that when I did a 2-family in Dorchester 4 years ago or 5 years ago when the market was down, I got it down to like $75 a square foot. Different level of finish, higher, you know, higher demand for labor right now. Materials are probably up too. But you'd want to use the square foot multiplier and you ballpark it. If you want to do better than that, then you'd want to give them a detailed reason as to what the cost, each individual cost was. If you got to replace the electrical, this is the cost. The plumbing, that's the cost. Kitchen cabinet, you'd want to give them a real list, and then you'd have more credibility as a wholesaler. But you need to train yourself to understand how to create that list. Right? You want to get some experience, maybe with a general contractor in the family, but you want to familiarize yourself with what things cost and how to recognize what needs to be done. Good?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I'll be back in a bit.
if you sent me a new one, I don't grab it. This is-
Oh, I didn't send it to you.
Okay, good.
If I have any spelling errors, I apologize in this presentation. Thanks, Bernadette, for having me, and welcome members and guests up there. My name is Matt McLoughlin, and as Peter had mentioned, I'm his younger brother at the bottom. I don't consider myself at the bottom or anything, but I think I'm an inch taller than him, actually. So the youngest of 10, grew up in Quincy, and I've been working with Peter since 2001 on his first Selfie deal, and he mentioned kind of briefly some of the things that happened at that deal. I was in college, and I was the guy pulling the horsehair plaster out of the wall and walking home with an inch of something on me. I still got a cough from it 15 years later. No, so that's where I really started in real estate, and I've been doing it ever since, really. So you can go to the next slide. All right, so this is the website for our company, Boston Property Capital. And anyone can go there and you can look at different case studies, different loans that we've done. You can apply for a loan on there, and you'll get a call from me eventually. This is just a brief description about my experience in real estate. Like I had mentioned, I was in 2001. I was with Peter on his first development, East 7th Street in South East. I left that after college and started working for a luxury apartment community, which is in Quincy, actually, and owned by a New Jersey company, and I was doing operations manager there. So I was hearing all the complaints from all the different tenants that lived there and learning a lot about leasing and rentals and how a luxury apartment community is run from top to bottom. In 2005, I started working with Peter and we developed Patriot Real Estate Group together. And from there to really like 2013, I was a broker. So I worked with buyers and sellers, and I was doing a lot of rentals. And I had a team of about 10 to 12 agents working with me at any given time. So now I'm a private lender, and I've had the luxury of seeing every aspect of real estate, really. I've been on the property management, I've been on the development, and now I'm on the lending, and I've been on the brokering, of course. So it's kind of a unique, a lot of knowledge I've had the luxury of kind of gaining from all that. So if we go to the next slide. So what I'm going to talk to you today is I look at probably anywhere from 5 to 7 loans, sometimes a week, and give or take. And one of the things that I think I'd like to see more of is a good presentation to me on why we should lend you capital, okay? And so these are the 5 things. I read a lot of books. It's always like 7 habits of highly effective people, 5 this, 5 that. So I made it 5 to make it simple. The first one is collateral value, okay? What is the property worth when you're done with it, okay? Comparative market analysis. I want to see, you're buying it for $200 and you think it's worth $400. Well, why? Based on what? Somebody told you that, or the house next door sold for? I just want to see it. Okay, so we'll get into that. Construction budget, and that's something that, again, I've been around it for a while too, and I've just absorbed it almost by osmosis. But it's something that you want to know, and I want to see as a lender. Just at least on a square foot basis, like Peter had talked about. Underwriting requirements, we'll get into that, and then your real estate resume. So I like to see if someone's coming to me and they say I have a house in Braintree, Quincy, Boston, $400,000, and they want to put $100 into it and sell it for $650. Well, who are you, right? Just give me a paragraph about why we should lend you money. And you can exaggerate all you want. I won't know anyways. So those are the 5 things I want to see from somebody who's coming to us for capital. Next slide. So collateral, okay? So what is the property? What is your purchase price, okay? And what are your exit strategies in that property, okay? So are you looking to flip it? Are you going to buy and hold? Is it a multi-family that you are going to fix up and rent out and then refinance us out? What are you doing with the property? And if you do try to flip it and you can't, what can you do? What is your backup plan? Okay? You mentioned Southie earlier. One of the nice things about Southie is if you get caught in a jam and you can't sell a property, well, the rents are really high in Southie, right? So you can usually rent them out, refinance them, and get your money out. That's just something that I'd like to see or hear about if something if the market goes down 10%.
I do have these slides, guys, so if you want them, instead of taking pictures,
yeah,
just email me and I'll get them to you.
So estimated construction budget, again, what are you budgeting for the bathroom, for the kitchens, for the roof, for the exterior, for the paint, for the HVAC, all those things. And again, I'm fortunate to see those numbers, so I'll know if you're right, if you're wrong, and if you're wrong, I'll tell you. And I think that's kind of one of the things that separates our company from a lot of lenders out there is we do have that background. We've been doing development for 14 years. So show me your construction budget. Show me, and I'll get a lot of, it's going to cost me $60,000. Well, why? Just show me some numbers, show me some line items. And it's good for you too as developers. Carry time. How long is it going to take you to flip this property? And you have to account for that cost as well. And then, of course, the after repair value. What is it worth when after you renovate the property? And that's probably the key, most important part of it, right? If you're going to be borrowing from us, we want to know that it's a profitable deal, and for your sake as well. Okay? So comparative market analysis, for those of you, most of you probably know what that is. For those who don't, it's comparing properties that are sold in the last 6 to 12 months. I like to see 6 months, okay? And what do they sell for, and what's also on the market right now, okay? Sale price per square foot. So I got a slide on the next one. I won't go to it yet, but the next slide will kind of give you an idea of what I'd like to see. Haven't seen it yet out there, but it would give you as a developer or investor a better sense of your deal. So we'll go through sale price, list price, and recent activity in the town and city subject. The next slide. Okay, so this is something that we use in-house. Okay, so this isn't something that I threw together for this presentation. This is something that we would use in-house to get a good sense of a deal, and I've done hundreds of these. So here's the subject property, right? I took out the address, but then these are the 3 properties that sold in the last 6 months.
It's in Hingham somewhere.
It's in Hingham somewhere, right? The last 3 properties that sold in the last 6 months. Okay, so I'm using proximity to the property. Okay, they're all 0.3 miles from the property. They're all single families, which is good. Not compares apples to oranges here. Number of rooms, bedrooms, bathrooms, living room. I won't go through the whole thing. But if I saw something like this and I knew all the comps that you're using are within 0.3 miles, I'm going to get a really good comfort level to want to work with you. And this is something that you really would help you out as well. You know, this will give you, I'll go over here, on the left side here, it gives you an average breakdown based on bedroom, square footage, and comp average. So, bedroom, per bedroom, this house is selling for $176,000 per bedroom. Square footage, it's selling based on an average square foot price of $317. Multiply that times the square footage of $1,283, and you get an average sale price of $391. And then if you just take all the comps on this slide, average out to 402. So these 2 bottom ones are probably a little more important than the bedroom count, but this will give you a good gauge of how good your deal is. So this is something that we do in-house all the time. Go to the next slide, sorry. This is something that we do all the time in-house as well. And this is probably my favorite because the picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So this right here tells me that the property that you want to borrow money on is right here, okay? And the comps that you're using are all on the same street. Now this is an ideal situation. Not going to happen most of the time. But even if it was, say, a comp on this street or a comp a few blocks over, that would just, that to you, it should make you confident, but also makes me confident as a lender that you have really good comps. Because I can see that these properties are right in the same neighborhood as the property that you're developing. And this is something that took me, you can do with paint, get the subject. You use paintbrush, and it's pretty simple to use once you get good at it. But again, these are properties that sold, except for this one's under agreement, within the last 6 months that are comparable to the property that you're developing. Next slide. Question? Yeah.
Where do you get the information for the comps?
So I'm a real estate agent as well. So I have access to MLS, and I've been utilizing MLS for a long time now. I've gotten pretty good at it, and it's pretty powerful. If you're thinking about getting your real estate license, it's a really good tool to use. There's other tools out there. This is just the one that I've always had and always used. Yes.
I noticed you use 0.3 for your comps as opposed to 0.5. Is there an advantage using 0.3?
Oh, so that's a good question. So I'll start at 0.3, right? And then say I get no comps in my search. Then I'll go to 0.5.
Okay.
Say I get no comps here, I'll go to a mile.
Okay.
But I want to try to get them as close as possible. And if I don't get enough comps at 0.3, then I'll try to get 3, 4, 5 comps for every property that I'm trying to get a good sense of value on.
And if you aren't an agent and you're not hooked up with an agency, there's real estate savvy agents in the room that if you work with them and you're willing to let them list the properties when you're done with the rehab, they'll provide you with comparables.
Yeah.
Another great site that I use is Redfin.
Yeah, that's a
It's
good
a good
site.
site for you guys to come up with like comps and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's another good site. And there's Zillow, but Zillow is You gotta be careful with
So,
Zillow.
no.
Zillow can be 20 to 30% off, at
Yeah.
least on some of their comps. I wouldn't suggest it too much, but it give you, I guess, a broad-based guide on values. But I use MLS really exclusively, almost. There's also a Warren Group, which you can get access to, which you can do a lot of searches on as well. And they have a ton of information on Warren Group. They do the trade, Vegas and trade.
Yeah, they have a great search vehicle there
There's
too.
a lot of information on Warren Group.
That's where Dickens pulls his
Oh,
information
there you go.
for market update.
Yep.
Did you talk about this?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So when you kind of breaking down expenses on any given development, soft costs and hard costs. What are your soft costs? They're going to be your taxes, insurance, and closing costs, carrying costs, permitting. So those are the things Pete mentioned earlier. Those are just other costs other than the cost to put the floor in, which are your hard costs, the cost to put the kitchen cabinets in. Those are your sort of materials and site costs. So those are the two things you want to see. The construction budget, this is just an example of something that if you're, if this is accurate, it's something that can really help you out. And then as you do more deals, you might say, okay, well, every time I run these numbers for the kitchen, for example, I know that my cabinets are going to cost $3,000. My appliances are going to cost roughly $2,500. And my electrical, all that. Maybe after your fifth deal, you say, well, an average house in an average neighborhood is going to cost me $12,000 to do a kitchen. But how do you actually know that unless you have it on a slide or a spreadsheet like this? So this is something that, as a lender, if I saw this, I'd be pretty happy with. And I have. I do get borrowers that send me stuff like this. This is an example of breaking down all your expenses. Okay. Underwriting requirements. What does the lender need from you? So we're similar to a bank, but less strict than a bank. Copies of pay stubs, a balance sheet, a list of your bank statements, your investments. We'll do a credit check. We ask if you have an attorney, send over your attorney information, a list of your properties that you own or your REO, real estate owned schedule. If you have properties with equity in it, we want to know how much equity is in it. So, you have a property, you have a $200,000 mortgage on it, but it's worth $300,000, you have $100,000 in equity. That's important too, especially, we sometimes will put a second position loan or another property that you own. Okay? So sell your resume. I really do. I think this is sort of one of those things that people don't think about, but kind of like your elevator pitch, about yourself. Just send me a paragraph, not even I don't like to read, so something really short. Something about yourself and how long you've been in the business. What have you sold? What have you done? What do you own? What's your portfolio? And if you don't have any of that stuff, then go back to what I spoke about earlier. Just have your numbers. Try to have some accurate numbers or some sort of analysis, a CMA, if you will, that proves to me or the company that you have a good, profitable deal. Multiple construction quotes. If you have a GC that's handling your whole deal, that's great. And if you have a few quotes from different GCs, send that over to me too. That's something else that I like to see is a resume from borrowers. Slide. Is there another one?
No.
Oh, okay. So that's about it. So if you have any questions for me, I'll be at the back. I'll let Pete kind of go ahead.
I mean, you probably purposely left it out, but how do you lend it? What percent, what is your interest you charge? Or
Yeah, so every deal is
different, right?
different, but we're anywhere from say 70 to 90% loan to value on the acquisition, okay, and then we'll lend 100% of the construction usually, okay, and the rates are somewhere between 13 and 15% in 3 and 5 points. Yeah, a typical loan is about 6 to 12 months. All right? Yes.
Yes, on the previous slide where you showed the soft and hard costs, where should we put the cost of your money in our?
Just don't worry about it. Just don't even think about it. It's all good. No, I would say it's soft costs, right? So it's your carrying costs, it's your financing costs.
How quickly can you someone run you a deal today? What's the fastest thing you can close?
Yeah, so I can move pretty quickly. I mean, if I got all that stuff that we just talked about, I could get you an answer within a day, maybe quicker. I mean, not a day. But the loan itself, we can turn a loan in about a week if we had to. We prefer to have 2 weeks, maybe 2.5, but we can move quickly. And again, we are developers, so if we don't like the deal, we'll tell you why. And I'm happy to do that. I have plenty of loans where people come to me and I'll go out to the property and they say my budget's $40,000, and I go, well, your budget should be $120,000. You really shouldn't do this deal. And I've done that, and I enjoy that part of it, because you don't want to be a one and done. You want to do a lot of these deals, and hopefully we can do business together going down the road. All right, any questions?